Well, hello, USA. Welcome to the show. This is coffee time again, where we expose the truth. And today we're with Ken Good. Ken Good, who is an expert on bail bond. And I've had him on before. This is his second trip. We've got several things on the agenda today we're going to be discussing, including bail bonds and what's happening with those today. We're getting rid of cashless bond, cashless bails. These people have to come up with something to say, okay, you get out of jail, but you got to give me $2 million cash, not homemade cash either. So anyway, this is Dale, host of Coffee Time Again, and we introduce you to Ken, and we're going to go in and have about an hour-long conversation on everything we got going on today. So we got a lot talking about. Hit it, Ken.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. It's good to see you. I hope your health is doing well.
Philip is doing very well. I'm in
Good, good.
hospice now, which is not fatal. It's not hospice is not necessarily fatal. This is the time what's in independent living,
Hmm.
and their goal is to keep me out of pain and out of suffering. Not worry too much about the rest of it. The first thing they did was took about half my medication away, and I immediately started feeling better the next day.
Wow, wow. I'm very lucky, and knock on wood. I feel like I'm jinxing myself by saying it, but the only thing I take are vitamins and supplements.
But that's the only thing you need. So keep it up, kid. So what's this about? I heard something about Trump's executive order to get rid of cashless bail. How does that? What's he done? Is it taking effect or?
Well, he's issued an executive order to encourage states to get rid of cashless bail, and he's assigned the attorney general with identifying states or jurisdictions that use it, and to identify grants that can be withheld as a carrot and a stick to encourage them to get rid of the practice. I think what he's highlighting is how poorly cashless bail, and cashless bail is called different things in different parts of the country. In Texas, they're called personal bonds. In New York, they're called release on no bail, and California, they're called release on zero bail. So it depends on where you are, but they're all the same thing. I call it simple release. Trump calls it cashless bail, and it's really just you're releasing somebody on their promise that they're going to come back, and that's it. And the theory is, well, everybody wants to come back to court, everybody wants to get their case resolved, and I mean that's proven to be absolutely false. And no wonder crime is going up in our inner cities because they're trying these experiments, and people quit coming to court, and we have high failure to appear rates, which creates huge backlogs, which creates pressure to dismiss cases, and then criminals see that as a green light to commit more crime.
Right, and I believe you used something like 80%, was it? Was that the number you used the last time we met?
Oh, I don't remember. I mean,
I don't
in
either.
Texas, the private industry bails out like somewhere between 83 and 86% of
Okay.
the people released on bail in Texas, according to the Office of Court Administration. So Texas is kind of bucking the trend. I mean, Harris County and Houston is kind of an outlier, and there's specific reasons for that. But the problem that we're having is where it's being tried, it's failing, but we can't agree. I mean, the people proposing it won't agree it's failing. They'll just say, "Oh, it needs more time," or they'll even admit it's doing exactly what they planned for it to do, which is cause more crime.
Yeah, that's more likely the truth on a lot of this. If they're
Yeah.
trying to get rid, they'll say, well, we got to get the guns off, take the guns away from people. That's
Well,
what.
in New York, they've done this reform where they've tied the hands of the judges, where they made a whole list of crimes at the legislature where the judges had no discretion. They just have to release them on, simple release on no bond. And, they've now rolled it back 3 or 4 times because, they just keep having terrible results with it. But they just need to they just need to repeal the whole statute. I mean,
Yeah,
when you take away discretion from judges and say, no matter how many times you're going to get arrested for this crime, you're going to get simple release. Well, who's going to take advantage of that? Organized crime, gangs, and career criminals. And we're not doing anything. We have nothing in place to allow the judges to address them. In fact, we're tying the hands of the judges so they can't. And so, sometimes I'm like, what would these politicians be doing differently if they were in the pockets of organized crime? What would they be doing different? I mean, I'm not sure if there's very much they'd be doing different.
No, I doubt it. The state legislatures and Congress are playing games with us because they are attempting, in my opinion, to socialize the country. Maybe they get real high crime, that gives us an excuse.
Well, I think there's a lot of politics at play, and I think we're caught in the middle. And I think, one side of the debate is being pushed by the advocates for change, and they can't admit that it's not working because they're stuck in a box because their supporters will turn on them if they admit it's not working. And so you've got the law and order people, and then you've got the people stuck in a box who have kind of really outsourced their criminal justice reform, bail reform to these activist group who will never admit they're not working.
Oh, no, 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 no. And not only that, they get the protesters, they pay the protesters, they're professionals.
Yeah.
Protesters, these are professionals.
I read an article yesterday that some of these protests with George Floyd finally stopped only when the government announced they were going to investigate where they were getting their funding for the protesters. And then
Mhm.
suddenly overnight it stopped. I don't know whether that's true or not, but that sure does give you a reason to go and investigate that information.
Yeah, it sure does. It'd be a good idea for Miss uh, the AG to go ahead and start looking
Bondi.
into some of this stuff.
Well, the other problem that we're having right now is, this we can't have a civil debate on these issues. I've experienced problems when I have a debate with somebody from the other side. I did a debate in the last week where, they can't respond to the merits of some of my arguments, so they just result to name calling.
Yeah.
And what we've seen with Charlie Kirk in the last couple of weeks is just
Uh,
the extreme version of that. They start by calling you names, then they start by calling you um, using toxic language that dehumanizes you, and then some of their followers listen to that and go, "Hey, I'm going to take action. I'm going to fix this problem." And then the people that said the hateful stuff, the toxic stuff to begin with, come back and say, "Well, that's not my fault." And I mean, if we're all going to tamp down language and we're all going to try to prevent that stuff from happening, then we shouldn't be calling each other names like fascists. We shouldn't be calling each other names like racist. I mean, they do one and then we do the other. And
yeah.
what I like to say is if you're going to have a debate with me and at the end you're going to result to calling me names, that just means you can't respond to the arguments. So
Yeah.
I win.
You win automatically. I did a show, oh, boy, probably a year and a half, 2 years ago with a gentleman who was doing civil conversations between the left and the right, like 5 or 6 people at a time.
Hmm.
And he's a talking stick, which I introduced to him, a talking stick. He's using that now. You know what a talking stick is?
No.
It's a stick that if you got the stick in your hand, you
Oh
can
yeah,
talk.
yeah, yeah.
If you
Okay.
ain't got the stick, you can't talk.
Yes.
So I
But
introduced that concept, and he says it's working better for him. But before, it was working pretty well. But they weren't getting into name calling, they weren't getting into anger.
look, when I have a civil debate with the other side, I can usually by the end they will concede that there's lots of things they agree with me on.
Yeah,
When I get an activist to argue against me, they won't agree to anything, and then by the end they're calling me names. Which but when they resort to name calling, it not only does that mean they can't respond to the merits of the argument, it also means that they're signaling to their supporters that we're resorting to identity politics. Don't listen to Ken because of his identity. He's not like us, so you should discount anything he says. That's really what they're attempting to do. But it really, to me, is a sign that they can't respond to the merits of the argument, so they're resorting to that toxic language to try to cut off debate.
yeah. If you can't answer the question civilly, you don't have an answer for it.
That's right. And if you're going to resort to name calling, you need to spend more time with your arguments.
Yeah,
Develop your arguments, read more. I mean, if you can't respond, then then you're not doing a very good job. I
No,
mean,
no, and to me, that whole Charlie Cook thing was just absolutely the protesting and the calling of names, like throwing what's his name off the TV for a few days.
yeah.
You know?
Well, Charlie, I mean, we've got so much of this going on right now where we have all this toxic language, and you can
Hmm.
see it where one side is, you cannot say that calling the other side fascist is not toxic. You can't say calling the other side Hitler is not toxic. And so if your followers are listening to you all the time say your opponent is a fascist, well, why wouldn't someone who wants to get active say, well, I'm going to go solve the problem of this fascist? And the problem is we don't have they're not a fascist. It's just you disagree with their policies. It's kind of like, when during Trump's election, during the campaign, people would say he was a threat to democracy. I was like, no, he's not a threat to democracy. He's a threat to the Democrats. And that's what they're whining and crying about. And I would even say, here we are 8 months later, and that's still what they're whining and crying about. Trump has shown over and over again he's not a threat to democracy, he's a threat to the Democrat Party. And the Democrat Party has put party over country for some reason.
Well, I believe the Democratic Socialist,
Yeah.
Democratic Socialist Party was started in 1913 by Woodrow Wilson. It's still going strong. Hillary Clinton's now the leader, believe it or not.
Well, I think that we have. I mean, I think a lot of the of our friends on the left are in a box because I really do believe that they've outsourced their criminal justice policy to these activist groups.
Mhm.
A bunch of them funded by Soros, and so they issue all of these studies that are just pseudoscience. They've cooked the books, and the problem is when they've done a really good job with it because they're so organized. When you do a Google search for crime and immigration, all these, you won't believe how many of those pseudo studies pop up. And the academic studies, which will most of the time say the opposite, they're behind paywalls. So they've really gotten very good and very well organized in painting a picture that, in my opinion, is false, and then publishing these pseudo studies that support exactly what they claim we should be doing.
Yeah, I believe they're well funded. George Soros is well funding everything.
Well, but look, you can look at how many times they've done it. They did that with Prop 47 in California. Oh, it's going to be great. We're going to make some felonies down to misdemeanors. They'll still have to respond for their crime, but they can get jobs. And what happened as a result of that? DA started saying we're going to decriminalize, we're not going to prosecute theft under $950.
Yeah,
And what has that done to that state? I mean, the commercial property values have sunk, gone through the basement,
yeah,
and now they rolled them back. They rolled them back with a new proposition last November, but the legislature's not funding it. So the legislature decided to get around the voters by just not funding the proposition. And you see that so many times repeat itself. I mean, these same groups took the position that increasing illegal immigration would have no impact on crime. It completely ignoring, these countries that have emptied out their prisons, their mental facilities, and just sent them all to us.
yeah.
And then you're seeing it on the criminal justice front. Releasing more people from jail will not have an impact on crime. Just relying on a peaky promise that's not gonna increase crime. And I would say bullshit. No, that's not true.
That's about the way I would phrase it too. It's if I gave my word to you
Hmm.
that I'd appear in court and I'm a career criminal. Guess what that is?
Yeah,
It's a lie.
it's a
I ain't
lie.
going to appear. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to go to jail. Why would I go? What would I go to court for? If they're forced to put some skin in the game of some kind,
Well,
property.
but one of the things that's the problem is they want everybody treated the same.
Yeah,
And the problem is that's not the way the criminal justice system is designed. The criminal justice system is designed to put just the amount of pressure on you to cause you to change course and become productive, not commit more crime. And it's designed to put just the amount of pressure that it's needed on me to cause me to change course and not commit more crime.
Right.
Well, if you're a first time offender, that's one set of pressure, but and you and me are different people, so we should have different pressures. But someone who's got a criminal history, well, they should have substantially more pressure,
Right.
and that's the part of this criminal justice reform that I completely disagree with. I mean, we can't treat everybody the same because that's not the purpose of the criminal justice system. And the attacks on it just are all talking points. They're not based on science. We're taking advantage of the poor. We're taking advantage of minorities. No, that's not true. When we use the discretion of the judges to put just the amount of pressure, then the judge can decide what that pressure is going to be. That's what they're there for.
Yeah.
And when we tie their hands, then we're just really arguing, in my opinion, when we say we want criminal justice reform, we really just want the public to put up with more crime because that's what's happened in our inner cities.
Yeah, and not just inner cities. And I live in Denver. I live in
Mm-hmm.
Lakewood. It's a suburb of Denver, but it is. I won't even go downtown. I will cross the street
Mm-hmm.
over here, which is down. It's called Colfax Avenue. It's the longest running continuously named street in the world, and it goes from Side 70 on the east to I-70 on the west side. But I won't go down to that. It's 2 blocks from my house now, where I live now. I won't go down there.
Yeah.
I won't go downtown. I haven't been downtown since I've been back in 2019 when I moved back to Colorado.
Yeah.
It's
Uh, uh,
dangerous. It's outright dangerous for somebody to be down there.
well, and it's not sustainable. The public will not stand not having public safety.
No.
So the reason why it's lasted this long is for two reasons. Number one, they deny, up until October of last year, they were like, oh, here's a study that says crime's not increasing. What you're seeing is not the truth. Crime is not increasing. And you can look at the FBI statistics that supports us. Well, in October, for a whole bunch of reasons, the FBI statistics were updated and they showed crime increasing. So suddenly they couldn't talk about crime anymore. And so they started talking about Trump was a fascist, Trump was Hitler, because they couldn't talk about crime anymore. So they just went to a full throttle yell about these other issues. And I think that's really true. That's been proven ever since. We continue to have these arguments. Oh, crime's not increasing. Crime's not increasing, but it's contrary to the numbers. And what they're saying is, don't believe your eyes, what you see. Believe us. And I think they've lost their credibility.
Yeah, I think they're starting to. I think the public's getting to the point they're tired. They're tired of going into a store. They got everything locked.
Yeah.
Got to get somebody with the key to open up to get a tube of toothpaste.
But I think fatigue has a lot to do with this. I think the
Yeah.
people on these activists came to power
Mhm.
because of fatigue, because they were always complaining. And so the public said, okay, we're going to put them in control. And one of the reasons why we're going to do that is because we're just tired of them always complaining and we'll see what they'll do. And now we've seen it and they've lost credibility. And so now the public's tired of it. And so now they're voting the other way. And it's kind of like a repeat of the 60s where we felt safe. We were more forgiving on our laws. Then crime started going up. And then we had one party that refused to participate in addressing the solution. So there was a backlash. And we ended up getting Reagan with his war on drugs. I think that part of the election that we just had was a backlash on crime and a backlash on immigration.
Yeah, and not only that, I heard of some numbers of 2 million. He's kicked out already. That's
Yes.
that's not bad. That's not a bad number for a few months. I hope he keeps it up. I was not a big fan of Reagan's war on drugs.
Why not?
One of the worst laws we ever had was that war on drugs.
Look, I mean, if we give up on fighting drugs, then we're giving up on so many crimes. Because I read a book one time that said 80% of all crime is derivative in some fashion from the illegal drug trade. So if we give up fighting on drugs, like, people want to say, oh, well, let's just legalize all the drugs and then we won't have this problem. Now, look at Portland. They tried that and we were having record numbers of overdoses every month. And that's not the solution.
That's not what I'm saying, is giving up on the war, on the fight against drugs. I'm just saying do it in a more effective way.
Well, I think we've learned a lot since then, but I think the biggest problem we have right now is I think we have a disagreement. I mean,
Hmm.
we have a disagreement about what to do and how to do it. And I think what we're realizing now is a lot of time is spent sabotaging the plans of the party in power by opponents. I would have said 20 years ago that democracy worked great because the majority that win relies upon the consent of the people that lost to govern. Well,
Hmm.
now the people that lose aren't consenting to be governed. They're saying it's illegitimate. We don't think of you as our president. You're a fascist. We just need to get through this. I mean, and so everything is spent undermining. But it just goes back to this doesn't have anything to do about democracy. It just has everything to do with the one party, the Democrat Party.
Right. I totally agree with you on that, on Ken, that the Democrat Party, and again, socialist to me is the biggest part of the problem. One of the big part of the problem is they are attempting to get into in like some of these democratic socialist countries in Europe. They're having you don't hear about it because they don't want you to hear about it all the
Well,
time.
and I do think the extreme left is very socialist in nature, and we've got a socialist Democrat running for mayor of New York City.
Yeah,
And I think, and we've got AOC who I think has an economics degree, but really, doesn't understand economics, I believe. But, if they're proposing economic policies that are leaning towards socialism, then they don't understand. I
no,
mean, a country cannot operate under socialism. I mean, if you take all the profits that a company makes, then then they're stagnant. They can't develop any new products, and so everything's going to decline, and that money is also going to get wasted, and it gets wasted, and the people that keep it are the people in power. That's why the socialists, the only rich people are usually the socialists in charge, and
yeah,
everybody else is very
Bernie
poor.
Sanders.
And so I really look at all of these arguments as just playing politics.
Yeah,
It's the politics of envy. You're not getting what you could get, so vote for me. You're being mistreated, so vote for me. You need to get angry and come out and get all of your friends to vote. It's all identity politics.
yeah,
And
and we
I'm
will.
hoping that that's coming to an end because I think Trump's last election really ended that. And we'll see how the midterms go because,
Yeah,
historically you would look at the midterms and you would say that the chances of the Democrats taking over the House are very, very high because that's usually what happens.
yep,
And if that does, then the likelihood of Trump being able to do anything in the last 2 years of his office economically are going to be very low. So the fight for the midterms is going to be very, very important for
yes, it
Trump.
is. And we were warned. Thomas Jefferson warned us about the two-party system.
He did.
Yeah, he
What did he
said.
say?
Yeah, I can't remember the exact words. I just read it. We read it in one of my podcasts. I'm commercializing it. That the two-party system is like fire.
Really?
It's a great servant, but it can become a terrible master.
I've always heard that the death of democracy arises when the people realize they can vote themselves things and
Hmm.
money.
And that happened that's what happened to Vote. They were voting themselves bread and circuses.
Well, and I would argue that we've got one party that's their whole platform right now is vote for me and this is what I'll give you. Vote for me and this is what I'll give you. Vote for me and this is what I'll do for you.
Yeah,
Now, to a certain extent, all politics is like that.
yeah,
But it seems like in the criminal justice world right now, it's to the extreme. We're not looking after what's best for the public. We're turning it over to activists on one side. They'll never admit something's not working. And that's what happens when you hand it over to activists. If politicians just listen to the activists, try to find what works, then if something's not working, they admit it and they move on. But we're now stuck because we've got one side of the debate where they're completely controlled by the activists and they cannot admit when something doesn't work. Cannot. Not in the criminal justice reform.
Well, not just anything, not just criminal justice, but that's the one we're discussing is criminal justice. And you're right. You're absolutely correct. They cannot admit they're wrong.
Well, but I would even argue that the stuff we're seeing nationally right now with the Charlie Kirk, which is the extreme example of somebody getting shot and killed, but you've got examples with Trump with 2 attempts,
Yeah.
but that's been going on with the criminal justice debate for years. Because if you say the opposite of what the activists are saying, you are attacked. And
Mhm.
you are attacked personally, and you're
Yes.
doxxed. We've gone through periods of where people were doxxed, and your name called, and then you go right into identity politics, and you say, "Don't listen to them because they're not the right race. Don't listen to them because they're not the right gender." And so, don't. I mean, that's just an attempt to cut off anyone from listening to that person. And then I would even argue that the Charlie Kirk is the worst example because all he did, don't listen to what the press says. Don't listen to what's being on social media. All he did was go on college campuses and engage in civil debates. That's what I do. And he would say, "Hey, I'm here. Anybody in this that comes here can ask me a question from any perspective, and I'll have a an honest conversation with you, a civil conversation with you." That's what I do. And so he was shot and killed because the person who did it supposedly is saying he had so much hate.
Yeah.
And I would argue Charlie Kirk did what he did because he had so much love. But the people who from that disagreed with him portrayed what he did as being full of hate. And
Yeah.
so they listened to what they were told, not what Charlie Kirk did.
And what?
And that's what happened. That we're all vulnerable to that. We're all vulnerable to that.
Yeah. I was banned from YouTube one time for something I said.
It wasn't being for being inappropriate on a beach, like the beach
Oh,
behind you.
oh, I was talking. I don't even remember what I was talking about, but they banned me for a week. Said you can't do that. That's against our policies. I said
You know,
no.
right before the election, I did a podcast about how drug cartels were taking over the legal drug marijuana industry in California. And so I based it on an article I found. And so it was before the election, and I posted on Facebook a link to the article. Didn't think anything about it. And immediately it was deleted from Facebook. And I'm like, well, I don't post things that are out in the crazy world. And so this has to be a mistake. So I reposted it. Immediately it was deleted again. I mean, it didn't say, "Hey, this is inappropriate." It didn't say, it just was deleted. It
Yeah,
disappeared. And then within a couple of weeks, Trump started talking about it. And so I thought, okay, Trump's talking about it, so I can delete it again. It wasn't until after the election that I was able to post something on Facebook and not have it deleted, and also not have the podcast that we posted about the article not be edited or censored. It's just incredible.
they just totally deleted that podcast because whoever me and the guest were, I don't remember. I'm gonna. I'll find out when I get because I'm going through and redoing all of my shows, converting them from MP4s to MP3s and monetizing them.
Hmm.
But I just read the one I did on last night. I re-listened to it as best I could. It was hard to with this machine and this new computer I got. However, it was saying the statistics that I had at that time for the people in prisons, how unjust and how unbalanced it was. And it's gotten worse since I did that podcast 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
Well, but the balance, I mean, the problem that we have, and there's a lot of studies on this, we have a disproportionate amount of crime being committed
Yes.
by certain minority groups. I mean, you can just look at the murder rates.
Yeah.
I mean, 50% of all murder victims in the United States are young black males.
Right.
And by and large, the people who are committing those crimes are young black males.
Right.
And somehow in this criminal justice reform debate in our inner cities, we've decided to favor the young black male murderer over the young black male deceased.
Victim.
And our victim, we've turned that debate on its head and from what we historically do. And I think it's all about politics. I mean,
Yeah.
otherwise it just doesn't make sense if it's not about politics. You have been mistreated. You have been mistreated as a race. So y'all need to come out in larger numbers and vote Democratic so that we can get people in office. And then you couple that with all the illegal immigration to get more people to certain states to pump up their numbers in the House of Representatives. And then you start seeing a strategy. And it doesn't have anything to do with criminal justice. It doesn't have anything to do with fighting crime. It's all about politics and helping one party to the detriment of their citizens and the rest of the country.
Do they really want to fight crime or they just want to stay in power?
You know what? That's a great argument. Are you willing to fight crime even if it means you're no longer in power? And the answer to that should be yes. Everybody should say yes. The right and the left. If I get out of office, I still want to have one of my core principles, fighting crime. And what did California just do? They passed a bill saying that ICE agents can't wear masks. And, the ICE agents, Homeland Security came back and said, screw you. You don't tell us what to do. Your laws don't apply to the federal government. But why would they do that? That's just politics.
Yeah. These poor
You
people
can't wear a
have to wear a
mask.
mask.
You can't wear a mask so that we can dox you, so that we can make your life miserable personally, and we can endanger your wife or your husband and children.
Right.
So we've passed a bill that allows that, and you should just put up with it. I mean, that's ridiculous. How is that anything but politics?
It is. Most of this is all politics anyway. It's like the
Well,
question.
but we always have politics to a certain amount, but usually politics plays into it as a backlash against one horrendous crime, and so we end up having a new law passed to make something else a crime, and maybe we have too many crimes on the books when you go back and look at it.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the worst we've seen in the worst period that we're coming out of, where we're saying we need to treat criminals better. And the worst part we're seeing is over mental health. Right now, I mean, we're coming out of this period where mental health was a king's X over a crime. So if you claimed a mental health issue, you just got released and the charge dismissed. Yeah. And that's what happened to that poor woman from Ukraine in the Northeast. Right. I mean, she was just sitting there minding her own business, and some guy with a huge, long criminal history, he'd even served time in prison, but a lot of his crimes had been dismissed because he claimed mental health issues.
Yeah.
And so suddenly we're not addressing criminal health issues. We're just giving them the power to commit any crime they want because we're going to dismiss their case. No.
We can blame Reagan for a lot of that mental health stuff.
Well, I mean, okay, there's a lot of blame to go around on mental health. And, I agree with you. There's some blame to go to Reagan, but I think a lot of the reason why we are here where we are with mental health is mental health doesn't have a constituency. We have a constituency for daughters. We have a constituency for a whole bunch of different issues, but there's really nobody that fights for mental health. And so historically, when county-run facilities, when the county was short of money, they would just cut the budget of the mental health facility. That's the easiest place to do it. And so we had a lot of facilities that were not operating properly, and people were getting harmed as a result. And so what was probably the death knell to mental health facilities was class action lawsuits being filed all over the country. Yeah. And so I mean, there's not a good answer for mental health. It's expensive. Right. But there's a reason why the prisons and the county jails are the largest mental health facilities currently in the United States. And if we're going to now, because of these criminal justice reforms, say, well, we're not going to let mental health patients go into the prison system, well, then we're going to have to do something else because we can't just let them go to commit more crime. I mean, the biggest problem we have is they come into to jail, they get on their medications, they get controllable, they get out, they get off their meds, and then it's just a revolving door. And these revolving doors are committing heinous crimes in the
Yes.
process.
I'd spent 24 years in the mental health business, but
Okay.
a therapist. Drug and alcohol substance abuse, but it's still part of the mental health system.
Sure.
And you are 100% correct in what you're saying, Ken. Because once they're off their medications, they don't want to be on the medications. They don't want to
Yeah.
feel good. They
Yeah.
want to be normal.
Well, they're sick, and and sometimes the medication makes them feel weird. And
Yeah,
I mean, look, I understand all those things, and that's why, I've had a sister who, she had a car wreck in 1989. She broke every bone in her face. She had some brain damage, but she started a 30-year prescription drug medication addiction.
yeah,
I mean, narcotic addiction, and she ran off. I mean, she became estranged from everybody in our family until the very end when I stepped in and had her declared incompetent and became her guardian and put her in an assisted living facility.
yeah,
And once we got her straightened out on her medications, I mean, she probably had the best 4 or 5 years of her life.
yeah.
And she was on the welcome committee for the facility, and she was like the cruise director of the assisted living facility.
Good.
But my point is, we've got to. Your best chance with mental health is not the government. The best
Oh,
chance with mental health is family involvement. I mean, even if they've been estranged for years, your best chance or the mental health patient's best chance for a better outcome is with family involvement.
I totally agree with you. Now, I'm an alcoholic and I spent 36 years sober now.
Hmm.
And I've also spent 36 years in mental health therapy treatment because
Well,
that's what helps. That's what keeps me sober.
sure. Well, I'm a Diet Coke aholic, and I used to have 7 or 8 of those a day. And I would have clients pick me up at the airport and hand me a Diet Coke. And I'm fixing to be starting year 3 of only have had one Diet Coke in the last 3 years.
Good for you. Good for you. But I'm on my second Pepsi. Wild cherry Pepsi, by the way, not just regular Pepsi. It has to be. I got 4 cases sitting in my closet.
Well, I used to buy so much Diet Coke, and now I just drink water. And
Yeah,
so, I
I
don't know.
got
I
all
think
of
I'm
them.
healthier as a result of it,
Wow, you are.
uh, but you know what? I mean, if Diet Coke is my worst vice, then I'm still doing good. But if
Yep, you are. Let's hope you didn't get diabetes while you were on the addiction.
Well, I'm not taking anything right now. My health is really, really good. I just take vitamins and
Fantastic.
some supplements. How old are you, sir?
75.
35. I'm 64.
Yeah,
So I'm trying to catch up with you.
you're going to catch up. Because
So
I'm
what
good.
what's your best advice for people as they get older?
Don't believe the bull crap. This is the golden youth. They're not. They're hard
Uh-huh.
work.
Well, what I would tell people is you need to be active. And
Yeah,
if you're not fighting to lose weight, you're gaining weight at our age. And so you have to fight it and contrary to what you hear and see on TV, there is no easy solution.
no.
Nothing is the easy. So if you want to lose weight, you got to do it, and you just got to put in the time and the energy. And you know what? It will slowly come.
I
But that's okay.
Yeah. Right now I'm living in an independent living facility
Hmm.
in hospice
Sure.
because of my health.
Yes, sir.
The hospice I'm in is not the fatal one, not the one they're waiting for you to
Sure.
go, but it's going to happen eventually because I'm in hospice now for the rest of my life, and their goal is to keep you not so much to treat your illnesses, but to keep you comfortable and secure
Sure.
and out of
Sure.
pain. And they're doing a good job with me.
Well,
So
good.
but I'm fighting. I'm not giving up.
Yes, sir.
That's what you cannot do. You cannot just give up. You've got to fight for your life, literally.
You do. I think, and I mean, when we're in our 40s and our 50s, we don't have to do anything to lose weight. But once you get 50, and then if you're not doing something to prevent weight gain, you're gaining weight. And I mean, I'm the poster child for that. I've been working out for almost 2 years now, and the first thing I did was injure my shoulder.
Yep.
And it took me probably 8 months to get my shoulder rehab to where it is today,
Yeah.
where it crinkles when I roll it, but it doesn't hurt when I roll it.
And mine
And
does. I've had 2 surgeries on this right shoulder.
I refuse. I refuse to have a surgery. I'm not going to have a surgery over something that just, I mean, I'll put up with it before I have surgery because I
Yeah.
just don't want to do that.
But
But, but I think that just like everything else, we can take shortcuts, but there's nothing that's beneficial to us that we can obtain by a shortcut. Same thing is true in society. I
yeah.
mean, crime is a shortcut, and if we make it in our counties, in our urban cities, where there's no punishment for taking that shortcut, well, then more people want to take the shortcut.
Easier.
And so they stop and they quit doing it when there's accountability. And what's killing us is we're removing accountability, and criminals, especially the really bad elements, they
Yeah.
see that as a green light to commit more crime. And that's what I'm trying to stop. When we fight crime, crime will go down. When we give up on crime, it will go up.
Yeah. What time is it? Oh, we got lots of time. I believe that we have to continue to fight crime at crime's level or above crime's level. Because we just can't say, all right, you're a bad guy, we'll put you in jail and you can stay in prison the rest of your life. You can't do that. You may have to. There are some people that have to be done that way.
Well, but I mean, we know how to fight crime, and one of the theories of crime is if they will not become a productive member of society, then one of the ways you fight crime is you isolate them away from society, and that's what prison's for.
Yeah.
And so there is, I mean, a theory of criminal justice that's how you fight crime, just like the broken windows theory that gets maligned and attacked. It's a known theory that works to fight crime. But the problem is then politics gets involved. And I would argue that in New York, the broken windows theory was attacked so strongly because it worked. It prevented crime, and by getting rid of that, crime started going up. And so how do we find a middle ground where we satisfy the extremes of both parties but still fight crime? And I kind of think we can't. I don't think one side of the debate is interested in finding a solution because that hurts them politically.
Which hurts
They
their
want
power
to
base.
the what?
Hurts their power base.
Yes, it hurts their supporters. Well, it helps their supporters,
Yeah.
but it makes them less likely to vote, so they don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And people, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people on the other side that would disagree with me, but I'm like, we know what we've been doing for the last 3 or 4 years in your urban cities has not worked, and you won't even admit it. So what else are we to conclude? You just want more time? Or is it you want the public to put up with more crime? That's really what you're saying. Y'all should put up with more crime because we're not going to put any more people in jail. We're not going to build any more prisons. I mean, look at California. They refuse to build additional prisons. They're allowing in all these illegal aliens. So their population is going up because they're getting more, they're trying to offset the people that are leaving. And so but they refuse to build additional prison capacity. So that's a backdoor way to mandate criminal justice reform because we can't put them in jail. Our jails are full, so we have to find an alternative. We'll build additional space. Arnold Schwarzenegger, when he was governor, he set aside money to build additional prisons, and they did not spend it. And eventually, the money was spent doing other things.
Yeah, probably that stupid train.
Probably.
What was I going to say? That's probably the problem getting old. I forget things real easy. Now we'll have to go on. I can't remember what I was going to say. I do know that the Democrats, and I'm going to call them Democrats, and I'm going to call them. If I get kicked off one of my platforms, I'm going to get kicked off one of my platforms. But they are power mad, and they are money mad. Look at how much money Barack Obama made when he was one of the poorest presidents ever elected. Look at him now. Just
You know,
8 years.
well, I mean, I don't disagree that I mean, how do the people make money in those situations? I don't know the answer to that. I mean, one of the reasons why people despise the current president is because he's independently wealthy and
Yeah.
they can't influence him. But if you look at the coalition that Obama built,
Yeah.
he built a coalition where Wall Street paid for the elections, but they focused on social issues after the election. So they left Wall Street alone. And so, I mean, it's kind of like Wall Street was paying protection money and they focused on the social issues. And
Mhm.
that really worked for a long time.
Yeah.
The problem is for the last three elections, the only way that worked was with the party stepping in and selecting the candidate. Hillary was selected
Oh,
by
yeah.
the party elites. She was not selected um,
Votes.
by Democrats because was Barry? No, it's Sanders. Is that his name?
Bernie.
Bernie Sanders would have been the candidate if except for the party elites.
Right.
Same thing with Biden. So you got after Obama, you've got Hillary, you've got Biden. Biden wasn't selected except by the elites
Right.
because if the party, I mean, if the voters for the Democrat Party had selected the candidate, they would have selected a far left candidate.
Hmm.
And then when you get to Kamala Harris, she was selected. She was not. I mean,
Oh, no.
nobody disputes she was
He
selected.
was coordinated.
She was coronated, and so what everybody's focused on is the next midterm elections, but what we should really be looking at is the next
What?
presidential election. The Democrat Party is not going to nominate someone who's not from the far left current if the election was held today.
Yeah.
And so either the party will have to step in again, which I don't think they can. They've lost too much
Uh-huh.
support. They're too
Right.
disjunctive. They will nominate a far left candidate. And, you know, one of the nominees that I have heard that I thought was really interesting is AOC is seriously thinking about running. And, when you hear the press say, oh, she doesn't think she can really win. No. If Bernie Sanders could get the nomination, if they were allowed to vote their mind, she can get it. Now, can she win the national election? She could if there was a big turn down in the economy,
Yeah.
because that's the number one factor for elections. But can you imagine what would happen if we had a far left candidate elected president? Because Biden ruled from the far left, but he ran as a moderate.
Yeah.
And his rejection by the public was partly because of his infirmities, but partly because he lied to the public about how he was going to rule. And you could argue he didn't know how he was ruling because he was out of it, but it doesn't matter. He promised to rule one way. We're going to return to normalcy, and he didn't. He
No.
ruled from the far left.
Yeah.
And the
Absolutely.
public, I don't think, will support
I know.
a government again for a while ruling from the far left. And the biggest reason is, how can you trust anybody? If somebody comes in and says, "Hey, I'm a moderate," well, I don't trust you. Biden said he was a moderate. You're just going to rule from the far left, and how can we trust that you won't? And you just open the border back up so that you can try to increase the number of representatives in the House for your party. I mean, to the detriment of the country.
For the people out here in the heartland, we have to make darn sure we find who we know who we're voting for.
Well,
Instead,
the other thing that's going on that I think is very, very important is, what President Trump did in D.C. by taking over and then addressing crime and addressing it very strongly. By doing that, he did the exact same thing he did with the border. We've got one party saying we can't address the border. We have to have a bill. And the bill was going to do the opposite of what they said it was going to do. It was just really going to And so we ended up not needing a new bill. We just needed a new president.
Yeah.
Same thing about crime in DC. The people that say they're fighting crime are not fighting crime.
No.
And we go in there and with a different mindset, with what we always know works, and suddenly it works. And if now they're going into, where is it? They're going into another state.
Yeah.
Uh, where was it?
I don't remember myself. I know what
Oh, I
you're
don't
talking about.
remember either. But I mean, if it's successful there, then I mean, there's going to start being voters in these inner cities. They're already getting on social media saying, "Please come, President Trump, please come to our city."
Yeah.
Even though in Illinois, the governor is saying we have a really safe city. We got, their citizens posting on Facebook, "Please, President Trump, come."
Yeah.
That's not going to end well.
No, that's not. That Chicago's going to get eat up like LA did with all the troops.
Well, I don't think. I think the president is really okay. I don't think the president gets enough credit for how smart he is.
Yeah.
I think he's playing this really well, and if he
Yeah.
shows that we know how to fight crime and we can do it very successfully, what kind of pressure does that put on far left candidates or elected politicians who are running their cities to the ground? What kind of pressure does that put on them to change their actions? I think it's actually putting pressure on them.
Well, I know it is, but it doesn't make any progress yet. They've got the pressure, but they haven't done reacted to it too smartly yet.
Well, I think it is. I think they are reacting across the country in subtle ways. They're
Yeah.
trying to they're trying to dress things up. They don't want Trump to come in. But the problem is when you've got LA making threats, and now with what happened today, you've got a guy on the top of a building in Dallas
Mhm.
shooting, and I want to know how many bullets he shot. But there's been some reports they just did scatter shot at the ICE building at the Sally Port, which is where they unload people, and he was shooting at the van and ended up shooting the several ICE detainees, and at least one of them was killed, and then he killed himself.
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, it's just ridiculous. I mean, where in our country's history would we have people that would be shooting at an ICE building? Because I mean, who's the party that's making the rhetoric that says this is so bad that the next step would be go shoot at these people for doing it? We've only got one party doing that.
Yeah. That's right. We only do, and we'll get it. We want. I have hope. I have faith.
Oh, look, I have lots of hope because what we're currently doing is not sustainable.
No.
And so a lot of my hope is we can't sustain what we're doing. So the public will not withstand, they'll eventually stand up
Yeah.
and say, we're going to change course. You can see that across the world.
Yeah.
Look at the protests that have been going on in Great Britain.
Oh. Yeah.
Those have just been incredible. But if that continues until the next election, the party that's in control will be gone. They'll be decimated. They'll be decimated for a decade.
Yeah.
The problem is, will the people that take over be any better than what they are? Because
That's the
the
problem.
people in control, it seems like, are elites who are, and the policies don't change between parties. It's just the parties got a lot worse under the Labor Party,
Yeah.
and so, but the policies are still bad under the Conservative Party, just not as bad, and we got to get away from that.
We do, and I'm not sure why, but I ain't smart enough to know how to do it. But there are people that are smart enough and smarter than me that know how to do it if they just get off their dead butt to do it.
Yeah. The best example of what's going on, I think, comes, from, politics in Texas. And I think it really explains what's going on.
Yeah.
So Texas has always been a conservative state.
Yeah.
Even when it was a Democrat state, it was a conservative Democrat state.
Yeah.
But the problem is the party went further to the left and left Texas conservatives no place to go.
Yeah.
And so now for you to run as a Democrat in Texas, you have to raise money. And you have to raise money to do a statewide campaign. Well, to do that, you have to state positions, and you have to that they agree with. So you have to set out these positions publicly. Then you're going to get the money that you can now make a campaign across the state. The problem is by taking those positions, you've now ensured you're going to lose.
Hmm.
So, like in Texas, a statewide race, normally the Democrat loses by 13 points. And
Except,
so a Democrat could win in Texas. A conservative Democrat could win in Texas. But the problem is the Democrat Party has no room for a conservative Democrat anymore. And I think that's because of the activists. You have to agree with the activists to get the money. And so they've chased off everyone else that doesn't
yeah,
agree with them.
yeah. I have thought that's come to my mind on occasion. Maybe I ought to move to Texas. It might be safer.
Oh, you would. You would be safer in Texas as long as it's not living in Houston. And
Oh, I wouldn't.
Houston's a lot better than anywhere else.
Oh, I wouldn't live in
But
Houston.
we've got a new DA in Houston, and he was supported by Soros, but so far he's been, I would say, a right of center DA,
Okay.
and he's been quiet. So, but the problem is, I don't think he's faced a difficult posi- issue yet,
Yeah.
where he is being asked to take a position in opposition to what his supporters will want. When that happens, it'll be interesting to see how what he does.
Yeah. We'll find out real soon. As soon as he gets some major case going on that opens up the gates.
Yes. Well, but I what when you said you're hopeful, I think things are turning around. I
I
think
do too.
President Trump's election in November was the hallmark, kind of the demarcation point of the backlash coming.
Hmm.
We'll see if it continues in the next upcoming midterm election. I think it will continue, but we'll see. I mean, there's some comments that says if Mamdani wins in for New York mayor as a socialist Democrat, that will probably help the Democrats, I mean the
Yeah.
Republicans, to win the midterm elections.
Yeah.
Um, I don't want him to be elected the mayor of New York
No.
because it'll help the you know the Republicans in the next election. I want what's best for New York, and
Yeah.
I don't think any socialist being elected is in the best interest
Of it.
of a city in the United States. There was an interview today with one of Trump's economic advisors, and he said, Mamdani's going to run them into the ground, and they're going to need a bailout, and they won't get one from the federal government if he's
No.
mayor.
They won't. Yeah, well, first place, the government hasn't got the money to do a bailout.
Well, but the federal government's the only one that can because it can write, it can run government in the red. It can just print money. States usually can't.
But
That's
they won't
been
do it. You're right. Trump will not give New York any money.
no, not after what they've done to him.
No.
And it is, in my opinion, what they have done to him. I mean, that's the natural reaction. I read an article right after Trump was elected, and one of the comments was that Biden's team was so worried that if Biden died before Trump left office, would Trump give Biden a state funeral? And I'm like, I can tell you right now, the answer to that's no, he's not. He's going to say no because he doesn't care. He doesn't owe anything to anybody. He remembers exactly how he was treated. And
Yep.
so my hope is that that doesn't happen during
Right.
Trump's last term. Uh, but
No.
when we have all these people attack Trump saying he's trying to run for a third term, we've got the governor of New York saying that oh, his team is sending me Trump 28 caps all the time. Well, why would they do that with if they weren't planning to run? They've got a sense of humor, buddy.
Yeah.
We've got a constitutional amendment that prevents that. Trump has never uh, he's never shown anything. Once again, you're arguing what's best for the Democrats over what's best for the democracy, and you're
Yeah.
just doing fear
Trump,
mongering.
Trump's getting, well, Trump's getting up there in ages too. So he's just tired. He's going to get tired. He's going to get out.
Well, Trump is not going to run for a third
No,
term, and
he's
when he
not.
says he is or he's thinking about it, he knows exactly what he's doing. He's
Yeah.
trolling the left.
Yeah.
He came out today with the walkway that he walks when he's going into the White House. He
Yeah.
made a hall of presidents. So he did all the pictures of the presidents. But the one for Biden, he didn't use a picture of Biden. He used a picture of the auto pen writing Biden's signature. I would say he did that all just to troll Biden because he remembers Biden waiving executive privilege in all this litigation so they could look at anything they wanted to do to try to get Trump, and they still didn't get him.
No,
So, I mean, and I'm going to say, I wouldn't hold a grudge against Trump for doing that. A lot of people would.
I
So
don't.
I just hope that Biden, I mean, Trump's not put in that situation
No, I don't.
before he leaves office.
I don't want him in that position either. But we're running short here, Ken. And a couple of things. I'm going to shut off the recording,
Hmm.
and I got a couple. Don't leave because I got a couple of things I need to say. Okay.